stand up and sing. I used to think that prayer was for righteous and the holy. I used to think that prayer was for the weak and lost. I used to think a lot of things that I found are not true. Now some days it's prayer that gets me through. I pray, pray, pray. Every day I take time to pray. I pray, pray, pray. When I pray, I always find my way. I used to think that prayer was for church on Sunday morning. I used to think that prayer requires a fancy word. I used to think a lot of things that I found are not true. But some days it's prayer that gets me through. I pray, pray, pray. Every day I take time to pray. Well, I pray, pray, pray. When I pray, I always find my way. Well, I pray, pray, pray. Every day I take time to pray. Well, I pray, pray, pray. When I pray, I always find my way. When I pray, I always find my way. Woo! Good morning to you. Let me tell you, I am so happy to see you this morning. Thank you so much for all of the well wishes this morning. I was a little under the illusion of a tummy thing last week, and I was not here. It is so good to be back. Let me ask you this. Did somebody last week remind you that this is a place of authentic transformation? Awesome. This is what happens here. Transformation happens, but it's not just change for the sake of change. It's a transformation into our authentic selves, and it can happen anywhere. But it's more likely to happen here some days, right? For me, anyway. For me, it's more likely to happen here. I got a few quick announcements for you this morning. First off, we are still ongoing in our project with Dodson Chapel United Methodist Church, and on October 14th, we are in charge of the food pantry and the pan 4 over at Dodson Chapel United Methodist Church. So we'll need volunteers for that. There are 2 sign-up sheets on the bulletin boards for volunteers, but I just want to remind you also that we also put our energy and our efforts into filling those pantry shelves, and I know that they are now in a little bit of need. I think last time Sherry mentioned to me that the food was a little bit low, so please keep that in your mind. I know we've got a lot of stuff going on in the world. We've got hurricane relief, and we've got earthquakes in Mexico City, and we've got Puerto Rico with no power and all kinds of things, and there are all kinds of places we could help abroad. But let us remember that our neighbors also need some assistance too. So if you could continue to stock that food pantry, we would appreciate it. We are also collecting for the healing of storms Harvey and Irma, and you may drop off items during office hours Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. If you have questions about the details, please see Linda Wanamaker. Linda, raise your hand and wave at everybody right there. Please see Linda Wanamaker after the service. And then another way that we are showing up as a force for good in our community is that on Sunday, October 1st, which would be, next Sunday? Next Sunday. Next Sunday is Barefoot Sunday, and here's what that means. You're supposed to wear wear the shoes to church that you plan to donate and go barefoot home. No, it says bring a second pair to wear home. But I think I'm going to go barefoot home, just to make it, I mean, in the spirit of Barefoot Sunday. We got a quick video to show you about that, so you'll know exactly what that's about.
If you look down right now, chances are you're looking at your shoes. You probably never thought of this, but do you know the power of a pair of shoes? A new pair of shoes can protect children and adults from debilitating diseases in places like Haiti, Honduras, and Kenya, keeping them happy, healthy, and thriving. New shoes allow children to attend school so they can receive an education, giving them the opportunity to break the cycle of poverty. Shoes also bridge the economic gap here in the United States, providing hope and dignity for thousands every year. A used pair of shoes is powerful too. We use them as a tool to create economic change all over the world. Used shoes help entrepreneurs in developing nations earn an income by repurposing and selling what you no longer need. Don't limit the power of a pair of shoes by throwing them away. Donate them to Souls for Souls instead. When you keep shoes out of our landfills, you're protecting the environment and creating meaningful opportunities for those who need them most. Unleash the power of your shoes by cleaning out your closet today, and then encourage your friends, family, and community to clean out theirs tomorrow. Visit soulsforsouls.org to find out more.
I'm thinking maybe bringing a second pair of shoes would be a good idea, because if you decide to go out to eat afterwards, you know, they still have that little no shirt, no shoes, no service thing. Keep your shirt on for sure. But be sure that you bring a second pair of shoes. Bring at least a pair of shoes to put in the pile next week. Wouldn't it be fantastic? We got probably 80 or 90 people in here. Wouldn't it be fantastic if our spiritual community donated 80, 90 or more pairs of shoes next week? And then before we sing, one more quick announcement. Saturday, October 7th, which is a week from this, 2 weeks from yesterday. Gosh, I got to get it in my brain. Saturday, October 7th, we're having Love the Land Day, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So we're going to be coming together as a spiritual community, putting our, you don't have to have a green thumb, you don't have to know how to grow anything. You know, if you're a little bit awkward around power tools, we'll keep you away from the hedge trimmers. But join us in sprucing up the land. All it takes is willingness and a happy heart. And we'd love to see you there. Hey, that's enough out of me. Let's stand up and sing something again, shall we? Y'all too?
You
back in this theme of prayer, which she often does right around World Day of Prayer, I'm always reminded of my dear departed Uncle Harold. You know, I come from a long line of ministers, and whenever he would pray, he always sounded like he had swallowed a King James Bible. You know, it was these and thous and all that kind of stuff, very high and mighty. But I loved his prayers, and I love the fact that we are reminded on a regular basis that a simple thank you is a prayer. Just a few quick more announcements for you here. We have ongoing, of course, Lunch Bunch on Wednesdays at 11:30. That is The Hope by Andrew Harvey. I do have the right book here on my sheet. A Guide to Sacred Activism. That will start in October. Thank you, Denise. We do have Lunch Bunch this week, though. Still continuing Lunch Bunch this week. So if you have some time in the middle of the day on Wednesday, please come and join us. And then on Wednesday night, our ongoing class, Spiritual Economics by Eric Butterworth at 7 p.m. Please come and join us for that. Hey, today's special music guest, I bet you don't know who it is, do you? Yes, it is Voices of Unity is in the house. Right? I just want to take a moment to remind you that Voices of Unity, not necessarily in this incarnation, but in a previous incarnation, created some CDs. Included on that, I know, is at least 1 or 2 solos by Miss Jamie London. And so there's a lot of good stuff on here. Those will be available in the lobby after the service if you're interested. Special deal, $10 for 1, $20 for 2. So, you know, you save money if you buy 2. We'll give you 3 for $25. How about that? Right after the service today, or shortly after the service, after we go through Denise's hugging line out there in the lobby, we are going to have a town hall meeting, and this is an important meeting. We'd like especially all members to stay if you can. We have a bylaw change to vote on. If you are a member of the church and you cannot stay after the service, you may go ahead and get a ballot from Sharon Duffy right there. So see Sharon after the service and get a ballot. But we're talking about several important things, and we hope that you can stay. We will try to make it as short as possible and get you out of here by 6 or 6:30. So,
dinner will be served.
yeah. No, it will be very quick, so hopefully maybe by 2. So as soon as we can get back in here, we will do that. That's all I have. B?
You are a tough act to follow. Good morning. Yes, we can take it to God in prayer. We can do that ourselves anytime with any thought, any words. But sometimes it's nice to remember that where 2 or more are gathered, there is special power. And so, if you would like to pray with a prayer chaplain, with the other prayer chaplains, please stand. The prayer chaplains are here to pray with you. There will be a prayer chaplain in the prayer room after the service, if you'd like that today. So, today's affirmation: the way of peace has become my habit. Together. The way of peace has become my habit. Today is a good day for war to end.
Amen.
Today is the day to begin walking the path of peace. I acknowledge there is no way to peace. Peace is the way. The way of peace has become my habit. The way of peace has created a new set point in consciousness. As I demonstrate peace, I create peaceful experiences in my life. These experiences, when combined with others, begin to shift the collective consciousness that I see, hear, and feel around me. Today, I shift my allegiance to peace. The idea of war ends for me today. This internal shift happens within me now. Gandhi states, peace is not achieved by working with violence or even working through it. Peace has its own power, and I choose to resonate with the power of peace. The way of peace has become my habit.
So I ask that you just get comfortable in your seat and begin to focus on your breath. And as we begin to focus on our breath, affirming that the way of peace has become my habit. And so as you hear the word peace, first think of what comes to mind, what you see in your mind's eye when you hear the word peace. And what you feel in your physical body when you hear the word peace. The way of peace has become my habit. A habit is something that we practice over and over until it becomes a normal way of living. And knowing our thoughts as we do, we start by letting go of any idea of war. Any idea of struggle. Any idea of conflict. Any idea of disagreement. And affirm in this moment the way of peace becomes my habit. And so in this time of silence with Holy Spirit, if you haven't already, take that 18-inch drop from your head to your heart and breathe into that heart space of peace and love. The way of peace has become my habit. In the silence. In the silence. Peace. The way of peace has become my habit. And when it becomes my habit, I am a soul of love. I am a heart of peace. I am an expression of joy.
Peace.
to have voices back in the house this morning. Would they give them another round of applause? Doesn't that look like a fun place to be about right now? Yeah. So our lesson today is called Putting Feet on My Prayers. You're going to hear that song at the end of my lesson today. But the reason we're doing that today, number one, is next week's Barefoot Sunday, so we're actually going to be doing that whole process. But I've been moving us all year into sacred activism. And what does that really look like? What does activism look like? We've seen that out in the world, but what would it look like if it were sacred? And what does that really mean? So our lunch bunch is going to be reading a book by Andrew Harvey, which is called The Hope, and it's about sacred activism. And our Wednesday night class is going to be Peace Circles by Becky Astorita and myself, and we're going to practice being peace in a circle together. Our hope is that we will have some Republicans and some Democrats. We'll have people on all sides of the issue show up, which is going to give us an opportunity to be peace with some people in the circle who might not agree. But how do we learn? As I've said for probably at least 20 years, it's easy in here. It's hard when you get out in the world. And some of us preach this stuff all the time, and still to remember to be peace in the middle of some conversations, and that, Jill, we talk about that a lot. Sometimes when you show up to the school board, it ain't as easy, is it? No, it's easier in here. Some of the things that I do out in the world, it's not as easy there as it is here, but we practice here with people that love us, hopefully. So what would it mean to put feet on my prayers? It means to put action behind everything. How many of you know that the fifth unity principle is action? But we don't always do that. In fact, I love meeting new people that think they know what unity is, because it gives me an idea of what people out in the world think about us. And inevitably, when I meet some people out in Nashville, they go, well, y'all are the people that just sit and pray about everything, right? I'm like, huh, interesting. So when I kept hearing that for years and years and years, that's one of the reasons we're doing what we're doing this year. I want us to change our image. I don't want people to think that that's all we do. Now, there's nothing wrong with sitting and praying. But I want people to know that we have more meat and substance than just sitting in a circle and praying. That we're putting feet on prayers. So, why do we do that? How many of you have seen that quote before? You can't solve a problem on the same level it was created. Which is just what Voices of Unity was singing about. You have to rise above it to the next level. If I be lifted up, I do what? Do you believe that? Yes. Until you get into a room with somebody who's snarly, right? And there's where the rubber meets the road. Seriously. Do I match their snarliness, and we do snarliness for snarliness? Because I get caught up in that sometimes. I'm like, I am not taking that. And then what I realize is about 10 minutes later, it's ugly. The fight is on. And I go, whoops. I am peace in the midst of all matters. Which is what we had been affirming for World Day of Prayer. And I went, whoops. I made an interesting choice there. Wonder why? Because you can't solve a problem on the same level it was created. When somebody meets me with energy that is down here in the gutter, I don't need to get down there with them and roll around. Does that make sense? I'm going to show you this chart. This is the chart that I use with children, but it works well with adults too. And many of you have seen this many, many times. What do you see at the very top? Woo! When I am happy and full of love and appreciation and enthusiasm and joy, and I'm eager to be there and I'm free, I give a different energy to the situation than when I go, oh, that person's mad at me and I'm jealous and hateful and revengeful and angry and then I create that. Now I walk away saying they did it, right? You made me mad. Too bad my son Austin's not here this morning because he's 22 years old now, and I have told him so many times that he doesn't even say that in front of me anymore. Or about someone else in front of me, because when he even starts, he goes, oh, I know, Mama, no one else can make you angry. Because I preached that to him his whole life. I have adults that come into my office and say, somebody made me angry. I go, nope, try again. You allow yourself to go down that path with another individual. That's one of the hugest things to begin to learn about human nature. And so if I believe that you can't have it both ways, you can't stand up here and sing, if I be lifted up, and then go, you made me angry. Because I know better. If I allow myself to be lifted up, then guess what's going to happen with the person who's angry with me eventually? They're going to be lifted up too. Which leads me to our second slide, which is something you've seen before too. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Do you understand that? That's actually quantum physics. When I change the way I'm looking at a situation, the situation begins to change and the edges begin to soften. What I know sometimes is when I'm looking at a situation really, really hard and it seems nasty and negative, I just haven't been curious enough. And somebody somewhere loves that person. You know what I mean? That's somebody's daughter or wife or husband or boyfriend. Somebody out there, believe it or not, the skanker dog that you don't like today, somebody loves them. Have you ever thought about it like that? It's like, wow. Wow. So what if I just backed up just a little bit and went, how could I look at you in a little different way? Because there's something redeeming in you somewhere, or nobody on the whole planet would like you. Right? So, peace. This is a peace symbol, a peace dove, lots of little things that kind of would remind you of peace. And we affirmed this morning the way of peace has become my habit. What would that look like in your life? Last week I asked you what would it look like if we didn't study war anymore, and I probably will ask you that again today. But what would your life look like if your habit was peace? And I know I've got people sitting out here that have been in New Thought for probably longer than I have, and you're going, my peace is my habit. La-di-da-di-da-di. Until your partner or husband or wife or child or something pisses you off. Yeah, she's sitting beside you, be careful. So I want you to have a conversation that you're brave enough to have with the person sitting beside you. You know that we do this a lot of times here. So you could process in your own mind with somebody, what would your life be like in this moment if peace was your habit? Go. So this is obviously something that appeals to you, which is great. I got you right where I want you, right? Because if this appeals to you, then this is what we'll create together. Remember, where two or more are gathered, we have two or more in this room. There is nothing that is not possible. Peace has its own vibration, which is part of what Bea was reading about this morning. That you have to be willing to vibrate at that level. And so the first thing you have to begin to understand is, where is it in my world that I have the hardest time doing that? Why? Because there's your work. You ever heard eat the big frog first? That's the big frog. So just be aware of that. The first step is, I'm aware that this place right here, wherever this place is the hardest place for me to be in the habit of being peace. For some reason, wherever this place is, everybody pushes every button I have. And so you can either say, well, that's a joy for me to have that experience and to know that this is my work. Yep, I can always count on Pam. Or you can go, I'm not doing it anymore. And the deal is, it's your free will. But what I can tell you, over the last 60 years that I've lived on the planet, the times that I have run away have been the times that I chose to not grow. Because I can promise you, whoever or whatever that is going to show up again. Maybe not that person, but it's going to be that same thing on somebody else's body. And I just get to keep doing it. And it's like, at some point in time, when am I going to be willing to learn this and get it and move forward and become the vibration of peace in this? So there are 3 Sanskrit words that have been translated into English. And what the vibration of peace means is that, number 1, it is Siva. Your actions harm no one and benefit everyone. That sounds really sweet. Until you get into the middle of a fight with somebody. And then you go, what am I doing in this moment? My actions are harming someone. Now, I know that, and I'm going to talk about it again in a few minutes, I know that some of us believe in free speech. We talked about this a little last week. But when my speech starts being violent to somebody else, that is no longer covered under the First Amendment. It's not. And so that is your work inside yourself, is what I'm saying to somebody, or the things that I'm doing to another individual causing harm. And I want to tell you, and this is your minister, sometimes I want to. I'm being honest. Sometimes someone shows up and I'm going, I want to. And there's my work again. Does that make sense? That's my work. You all know where your work is. And so in those places where I want to be right, I want to have my last say, that's my work. Because my actions harm no one and benefit everyone. That's hard, people. It's easy in this room. And even sometimes in this room, when we get into the leadership circle, it can be hard because we don't always agree. Fancy that. But the thing we can remember is, my actions, my words are not harming other people, they're benefiting everybody. Simran, you remember your purpose for being here. I'm not going to get in a big, hairy, long discussion about purpose, because that could be a whole nother lesson or a whole day workshop. But some of us get confused about what we think our purpose is. We think it's playing the piano or singing or la-di-da-di-ing out in the world, whatever it is we think we do. Your purpose is to be the Christ. I'm going to say that again. Your purpose is to show up as the presence of the Christ all day, every day. In whatever you do. So you are the soul of love, the heart of peace, the expression of joy, everywhere, all day long. You may decide to do it through your art. You may decide to do it as you sing. You may decide to do it as you are doing banking. You may decide to do it as you're teaching. But your purpose, we all have the same purpose. We get confused about that. And then we get competitive with each other. When you take out all of that other stuff that we think are our purpose and understand my purpose for coming here was to be the Christ. And I don't get confused. Then it's very easy to go, whoop, did I do my purpose today? Well, I did it here, and I did it here, and didn't do too good right here. There's my work. And then the last piece of this Sanskrit word is satsang. You belong to a community of peace. Now, I have people all the time that say, I'm not going to join a church, or I'm not going to join a this, or I'm not going to join a that. And what I usually tell them is your life's going to be hard. And I'm not telling you you have to join this church, but you need to be a part of a community of people that will hold your fanny to the fire. Some of you laughed, and some of you looked sick, like you're going to vomit. If you don't belong to a community of people, wherever they are, you could be at the Y, it doesn't make any difference to me. You could create your own support group in your own home. But if you do not have a group of people that hold your fanny to the fire, you're never going to get this. You can't do this in a cave by yourself. I can be peaceful all day long with me. Until I'm not. Yeah. The other piece I want you to know, because there's a lot of people in here today that I don't know. Whether or not you come out of a tradition that is very much Jesus-oriented, I can tell you that these words are things that Jesus learned. You know that whole big group of time in the Bible when nobody knows anything about what happened to him? He was learning about all this. He was studying with Eastern teachers that were explaining to him about all of the things that we talk about on Sunday morning. And then he came back to a group of people and he tried to teach them, and guess what? They couldn't get it either. Because it's hard. Every day, with everything I say and everything I do and everything I think and everything I feel, it's going to be peace. Everybody breathe. Everybody breathe. You know, we went through the 80s and part of the 90s thinking, you know, I'm okay and you're okay and we're all okay and we can just tell each other what we think all the time. And now, in the middle of the early 2000s, we're finding out that that doesn't work either. Because we end up with a whole bunch of pissed off people running around the world. Because somebody told me what they thought. And I got mad. I think it might behoove us to go back to what this was about. And so last week we began a process of 7 practices for peace. I'm going to remind you of the first 4. Those were the ones we practiced last week. But the first one was just to be peace. The easiest way to get into that vibration is what we did earlier, is sitting in the silence. But I'm also going to remind you, because I do this with a lot of groups that I work with, the reset breath. Now what I can tell you is I stand up here on Sunday morning and I am very empathic and I feel energy, and I can feel a lot of you are all sphinctered up already. from everything we've talked about. So I'm going to tell you, give yourself a moment and blow out whatever is not peaceful inside you in this moment. And again, as I told a group that I'm running on Tuesday nights right now, if you all were 5-year-olds, you would have blown the paint off the walls up here. But you're adults, so you're trying to be pretty. What I can tell you is when you get home, if you are not peaceful, it needs to look like this. Get it out of there, okay? Then you're going to put a hand on your heart and a hand on your tummy. I usually stick my thumb in my belly button. I'm just telling you that because these are 2 Dantian set points. There is also one in your forehead. But these are resetting the flow of energy in your body. So just breathe and affirm that you are peace. The nice thing about this practice is that you can do it anywhere. You can do it in the middle of Walmart. I've done it before. Of course, I didn't turn around and blow all out at the person who was behind me in the line that was going off. But I blew, and then I just did this. They didn't have to know what I was doing. They could have thought my tummy was hurting. I don't care what they thought. But it kept me being peace in that moment. Then you think peace. The nice thing about this process, if I can't think thoughts of peace right now, then guess what? I need to go back to step 1 and blow some more. Because there's obviously something inside me that is still chaotic and upset. Last Tuesday night, I started a group that I'm doing for 6 weeks with women that have infertility issues. And we did the reset breath, and the moment we got out of it, this woman said, and you know what, I'm just so upset, and I went, we need to do this again. We did it again. The minute we quit doing that, she said, I need to talk, I'm just so upset. About that time, one of the women giggled. And I said, we need to do it again. After the 3rd time, she went, this is supposed to make me quit that. I said, yeah. 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 So know what it's about. Thinking peace. How do I get to that place where I can think thoughts of peace? Our praise and worship team is going to help us with that. Just a minute. Some of you did this last week, but I want you to think for a minute. If I knew that the thought that I was thinking was a prayer, would I keep thinking it?
Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what we're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is
going to ask you a few questions. Seek a what? You can't solve the problem on the same level as the problem. We know that. We've heard that. But we're seeking a higher consciousness. A state of what? Oh, but I'm pissed. Peacefulness. Oh, I need to blow more. I need to blow for 30 minutes. I need to get it out. I need to write in a journal all the things that I'm pissed about, and I need to burn it up somewhere. I need to do my work to seek a higher consciousness. Let's sing this one more time.
Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer. And every thought becomes a prayer. And every thought becomes a prayer.
So I'm going to have you all just sit right back there because you're going to come back up here in just a minute. I don't know how that song, those of you that were here last week, it affected you, but I've had that going through my head all week. Yesterday I was with the steering committee for the state TIPPER board, Tennessee Interfaith Power and Light, and somebody said, "You are Unity of Music City. What does that really mean? Y'all have a lot of music?" I said, "Oh yeah." And I said, the reason is because I can stand up here and talk all day. Other people can. But what you carry with you a lot of times is that song that made a difference. Because songs tune your vibration up. You understand? I see Gregory Fisher going, yes. Because when you sing, it does the same thing. My body becomes a singing bowl. If I want to shift my thoughts, I sing out loud in my house. Right? I just sing out loud and it shifts me. So even if you say, "Oh, I'm not a singer," do something. Because it's changing your personal vibration. It's lifting you up. Remember that. So we did be peace, we did think peace. Now feel peace. There's another piece of it. What is it that you do in your world to feel peaceful? I sing. Sometimes I take a walk in nature. What are the other things that you do? Are you aware of those things? I'm going to give you a hint. They usually make you happy. Whatever it is that you enjoy doing that brings peace to your soul and happiness to your heart, do those things because you're going to feel more peaceful. And speak peace. Now here's the deal. Again, remember, if I get all the way down to speak peace and I'm still sending darts out of my mouth, you have to go back to step one. Right? I'm going to ask Deb to do the thing that I wanted her to do last week. Can you take the peace thing off the wall, please? We affirmed this for 2 years in a row here at this church with our Nashville Chooses Peace Day. The reason I want Deb to read it is because she wrote it. It is just amazing. But I want her to read it out loud to you, and I want you to hear it and feel it and think about it and know that this is who we say we are.
From this day forward, this land and these people belong to the way of peace. The way of peace is the way of inclusion. Labels, politics, religion, race, gender, and all of the ways of division must be set aside. Peace will come when we look into each other's eyes and have a single thought: brother, sister. The way of peace is the way of love. love for all humanity, love for our planet, love for ourselves. Love does not require agreement. It only requires willingness. Peace will come when we truly love one another. The way of peace is possible. We can heal division. We can soothe anger. We can let go of yesterday and embrace peace today. Peace will come when we believe it can. We plant this intention and set our hearts in this direction. From this day forward, this land and these people belong to the way of peace.
Is that not beautiful? And so we move to the last three. Know that once you get the first four down, the last three just flow with ease and grace. But if I'm not acting from a place of peace, then I know I need to go back to which step? One. I got to go back to the beginning again. Because acting peace means that I choose peace in every action that I do. Do you feel that? In your body, do you feel that when I act from peace, I am choosing a peaceful action no matter what I'm doing? And what would that look like? It would mean that we have to get this old groove out of our brains that has to do with separation and war and thoughts of people are different than me, or competition that I'm going to win and you're going to lose. There is so much in our world today that separates us, and we're talking about coming together. So we're going to sing another song together. You're going to want to stand up. We sang it last week, but if you were not here, you didn't get a chance. So here you go.
Gonna lay down my burdens down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my burdens down by the riverside. Don't study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war.
Today's question is, if I don't study war no more, what am I going to create in my life? I'm going to create peace, and what is that going to look like? Go. give you a lot of things to journal about when you get home today. It's going to give you a lot of things to talk about during lunch with people today. Because how would my world be different if I was focusing on creating peace and not creating some kind of scenario of chaos with another individual? It would be about me sharing peace. And what does it look like to share peace with another individual? Remember, where two or more are gathered, anything is possible. This is another slide that I used last week. This is an opportunity for you that are brave to come starting October the 11th on Wednesday night and share peace in a peace circle. Again, if you have a person that you know that does not always agree with you, please bring them. I know some of you are giggling. Please bring them. Because we're practicing together. And we are in hopes, Becky and I are in hopes that everybody in the circle is not going to be the same. We don't want that. We want people to be looking at it from all different kinds of directions and us practice what it means to really be peace. And to allow people to have differences of opinion. And by all means, to not think that we are the be-all and end-all of all the answers to the world's problems. So what would it look like for us to put feet on our prayers? I heard this prayer yesterday, and it was the ending prayer that someone read for our Tipple meeting yesterday. And so I want to share it with you. Living, loving Spirit, I am breathing into this now moment and affirming that I can be a force for good. So often the problems of the world seem so complex and intricate that my mind cannot comprehend. Many times I feel tongue-tied in the company of people who are dealing with the world's social and economic problems. Even in all the situations I may see, hear, feel, or experience, I know and affirm that I can be the power of peace. I can be the power of peace when I take the time to be still and know. Let me retain innocence and simplicity of being. I realize that I have to be informed and that I have to try to understand as well the possible dynamics of our contemporary society. But what really counts is that all this information, knowledge, and insight allows me to think more clearly, speak more freely, and act boldly. In the name of all that is holy, may I think more clearly, speak more freely, and act boldly. And I say amen and amen. Namaste.
Church on Sunday, I sing and I pray. I ask God to help me find my way. I make known in earnest the desires of my heart. The question is, am I willing to do my own part? I'm putting feet on my prayers and they won't go anywhere. If I'm gonna talk it, then I need to walk it. Putting feet on my prayers every day, everywhere. Work out the way that I planned, and I know I've let go of God's hand. I reclaim my power and stop singing the blues, and it becomes clear to me what I need
know, we got grips and stagehands all over here. Yeah. Every time we sing this song, I can't help myself, but I picture myself in my apartment with a bunch of little prayers like running around going, get over here in the corner, like chasing around, like my dog or something. I'm hoping there are that many in my apartment. All right, as we move this, it is now time for our opportunity, our wonderful opportunity each week to give back to our spiritual community through the giving of our tithes and offerings and gifts. If you will take those in your hand with me and say the offering blessing. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. And please join us on the sacred walk of abundance.
our hands and our hearts and our minds to bless these tithes and offerings. In Living Loving Spirit, we bless each and every person that is in this room today. And we know that today, the idea of peace is prevalent in each of their minds. And so as they leave here today, they are being peace and thinking peace and feeling peace and speaking peace and acting peace and creating peace and sharing peace with everyone, knowing that as they are peace in the world, they become the way of peace, and it becomes a habit. And we see that and we know that it is so, and when that becomes a habit, it comes back to them, heaped up, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, for that's the law, and so it is. Amen.
I wonder what it would be like if I would attend a town hall meeting as peace, in the habit of peace. Let me remind you that as soon as we get out and can make our way back in, we'll have that town hall meeting. So please join us. Before then, let's circle up like the community we are and sing together.